Hey DazeCon attendees, are you enjoying yourselves too much? Well, worry not. I have the solution in the form of an audio-visual torture experience, aka my panel. Welcome, my name is Lunan, and today I will be talking about the parents of KagePro, the very, very interesting and cool guys who I'm sure everybody cares about. Now, in case the title and the description and everything else didn't tell you, this will be a ranking video. Ranking videos, by their very nature, are subjective, which means that all of this, pretty much, will be my personal opinion. If you disagree, well, fuck you. No, I'm sorry. If you disagree, I will be linking a tier list at the end of this. It's also in the description, where you can share your own opinion. Yeah, if I shit on your fave, or I don't, or give too much credit to the guy you hate, sorry, I guess. Another disclaimer, I am not an expert. I have done a decent amount of research on this topic. Unfortunately, a lot of the existing ideas around it are kind of inconsistent, and there's really not a lot of conclusive study. Point is, I've done the best I can with this research, but I am still not an expert. So if I mess something up, sorry. You feel free to correct me. Genuinely, I would love to learn more about this from someone who happens to know more. But yeah, so how is this actually going to work, you may ask? Based on the research that I just talked about, I have devised 3 categories for this ranking. Number 1, providing a safe and comfortable environment, because that's kind of important for a child. Number 2, imparting life skills. How well adjusted is this person? How well are they going to live a life? I guess we'll see. Number 3, teaching morals. Is this child a good person, or are they Saru? For each category, I will give a score out of 10, and then I will add up the total scores and divide them by 3, and that will be the character's overall score, which determines their ranking in the video, and the maximum for that is also 10, because 10 is a cool number. Now, before I actually start the proper ranking, I would like to talk about some dishonorable mentions, because I'm only going over the named parents in KagePro, which means that I am not able to dunk on Kano's mother, or Kido's father, or Haruka's father, who is decidedly less bad than the first 2. However, he's still kind of sucky, so fuck him, fuck all of them. I'm so glad they're dead. Now with that out of the way, let's get onto the rankings. Yay! Oh wow, best dad at the bottom? What does the world come to? Yeah, sorry Kanjiro enjoys, I am one of you, however, he kind of sucks. So here we are. Kanjiro's whole attitude to parenting seems to just be to retain his goofy dad persona and never deviate from that, which kind of sucks in the long term, especially as his kids mature and become actual human beings, because then he has to grapple with the fact that they expect more emotional depth from him, and he is not willing to give that. I mean, Seto talks about in novel 6 how he just refuses to be sad around them, which isn't exactly good in my opinion, because it doesn't exactly provide a foundation for any meaningful emotional conversations. So that kind of sucks. His parenting style is largely permissive, and this is reflected in how he doesn't really do anything. He just kind of he does play with his kids, and he does look after them, and he is protective, but he leaves a lot of the raising aspect, from what we've seen at least, to Ayaka, and he doesn't really do housework and things like that, and he doesn't really teach the kids things. He just sort of plays with them, and then when they're older, he just kind of checks up on them occasionally. He's not exactly the most proactive parent. He just kind of sits there most of the time. And this has very obvious consequences for the entire Tateyama household. I mean, Ayano, obviously after Ayaka's death, feels on her own that she should probably replace her mother in some way and provide emotional support for the mecha trio. But even like beyond that, she kind of just takes over Ayaka's role, and part of that is Kinjiro's own fault, because Kinjiro just lets her do it instead of taking charge and actually taking care of the household himself, because he's so caught up in his own grief, a grief that he will not talk about. So cool, very fun, very stable, I'm sure. He's also kind of very irresponsible, because again in novel 6, Seto talks about him getting drunk around his kids, which is I don't think I have to explain why that is bad and why he shouldn't do that, and why that kind of is a bad move when you are a parent. But yeah, slightly sucky. Don't do that, please. Another thing that I personally find a bit weird, but I don't think it's that big of a deal, I'm just slightly put off by it, is this other thing that Seto says, where Kenjiro calls Haruka his pride and joy in front of his own children, which I mean, I could be reading into this too much or misinterpreting it, so it's not really that big of a thing. But personally, if I was the child of a guy and he said that another person who I am not related to in any way is his pride and joy, I would I don't know, I would feel a bit I would feel a bit I would feel a little bit offended by that, I'm not gonna lie. Oh well. Like I said, that's probably just a minor thing, and also just me. Also going back to Kinjiro's lack of real activity in the household, and also Seto's conversation with Haruka in novel 6, things like Seto's own insecurity about not changing enough, about not being active enough, and not being independent enough, I would argue that is also a product of Kinjiro's inactivity and holding himself up in his grief. That I would argue that is a partial consequence of that. I'm not saying that they're like all Kinjiro's fault, but the environment he's facilitating probably doesn't help it, because it kind of forces the kids to grab hold of their own independence and really like build up their own thing. Which isn't necessarily bad, but considering the age that we're talking at this point, which is like what, mid-teens, early to mid-teens, maybe not even that, it's just a little bit sad. And like even beyond that, I can't imagine the emotional toll it must have taken on especially Ayana. I mean, we see it a little bit in the anime. The emotional toll of like watching their dad kind of turn into something he's not. That's not his fault, but the situation is kind of sucky nonetheless. In summary, Kenjiro's dedication to the bit is unparalleled, but in this case, the bit is not being able to provide emotional support for your kids. Truly a dad moment if I've ever seen one. Okay, for his actual stats though, Jiro's stats are kind of mid. I gave him a 5 in providing a safe and comfortable environment, mostly because he fell off at the end there. Like the vibes in the Tateyama household, is after he got Sarud, fucked off. So it's not, again, not really his fault when you think about it, but also he kind of failed to salvage the vibes. So in fighting life skills 3, because again he just kind of left his kids to fend for themselves after Ryaka's death. So that's a low score. I'm assuming he did teach them something. I'd like to think that. I'd like to think that he tried giving them emotional support at some point, but we never see that. So he gets a 3. Teaching morals 7, because he had to do something. Surely he did something. And the kids turned out alright. So I'm assuming he did teach them decent human things. Hopefully. Either way, this nets him a 5 overall, which is a wonderful number, perfectly in the middle, but it also puts him at the very bottom of this list. So, sorry Kanjiro enjoyers, this is just how we live now. Hey girl, are you the almighty creator of this world? Because damn, you're a little fucked up. Zami, am I right? Unfortunately for everyone, Zami's just a little bit, just a little bit, issue filled. Now, don't get me wrong, she does try her best, like the previous guy on this list. And some of her trying does put her above Kanjiro. But man, I couldn't really find a category for her, funnily enough. Because Azami's main issue is that she is kind of very afraid, of fucking shit up. And as a result of this, she ends up being very distant, I think unintentionally. When we see her in the novels and the manga and really everywhere, she sort of just lets Tsukihiko take care of things, in the child raising aspect, probably because he's a human being unlike her. So he probably knows his shit a little bit more, but we'll get to that later. But she does provide Shion with comfort and love and support. But that's she doesn't do much of the raising stuff. She doesn't even sleep in the same bed she doesn't even sleep with Tsukihiko and Shion because she doesn't need sleep. Man. So Azami's fundamental issue here is that she doesn't really realize how important she is to her family. She just kind of assumes that they'd be better off without her, and we see this manifest in her funny little disappearance after the villagers attack her family. She seems a lot more confident with raising Shion while she's still an infant, but then once she starts growing up a little bit more, it looks like Tsukihiko's the one doing most of the stuff here. Another interesting thing about Azami's approach to parenting, which probably is derived from her inherent belief in her own inhumanity, is that she does not talk down to Shion, which I personally think is not a bad thing inherently. However, it also means that she is kind of comfortable with expressing her stress and negative emotions around Shion in a way that's, I wouldn't necessarily call it healthy, because it results in Shion trying to placate her, and Shion kind of taking on the role of the more rational one in the situation, which in theory should be Azami's responsibility as the parent. I think that's the least of our issues here. Azami treating Shion the same way she treats Tsukihiko is also reflective in her final little monologue before she leaves in the anime, where she tells Shion to live as a human, which sort of solidifies that Azami just sees a fundamental gap between her and her family, which is caused by, in her head, her own monstrousness, when in reality, it's mostly just her insecurity and her self-loathing talking, which sucks. But anyways, Azami's treatment of Shion as an equal rather than as a child could also be an explanation for why Shion is kind of mature for her age. Like, if we assume that Shion is a bit younger, if not around the same age as Mary when we get introduced to her and her meeting with Seto, that, yeah, Shion's kind of mature, but that also could also just be her nature. Yeah, also, either way, Azami being unable to control her like emotions properly, while not necessarily her fault, isn't exactly the best when you're raising a child, but she does like try her best at least. She kind of, funnily enough, has the opposite problem to Kenjiro, where he suppresses all his negative emotions around his kids, and is able to therefore provide zero emotional support, whereas Azami isn't able to suppress any of her stress, right, understandably so, but that also allows her to connect with Shion on a deeper emotional level. Also, there's Favoring Eyes, but Favoring Eyes is just kind of a bonus to that. So, Azami's stats. Unfortunately, the elephant in the room here is that Azami just kind of leaves when Shion is, 10? So, for providing a safe and comfortable environment, 7 until she fucked off. Oops. Imparting life skills, 0, again because she fucked off. There's not a lot of life skills to impart if you're not there. Also, Azami doesn't know how to like cook and shit, or do things that a human would need, so it's not very cool. I guess she can teach that murder is okay. Shion later takes her up on, but yeah, kind of like an ass skill set here, which gives her a nice looking 3. However, you might be wondering, wait, if she only got a 3, how the fuck is she higher than Kenjiro? Well, you see, I give her bonus points for the whole, I will give up literally all my power to save my daughter thing. Because, like, I think I should have stated before I started this ranking that, like, all these people love their kids, but sometimes love is just not enough in raising a healthy and happy child. However, I will say this counts as extenuating circumstances. Other bonus point for it literally being God and not knowing what the fuck goes on. So yeah, like I don't know about you guys, but I think I really should just cut her some slack here. So I've transformed that 3 into a beautiful 6. Sorry, this is my list and I make the rules. If you have a problem with it, take it up with someone else. Because I personally could not give less of a shit. No, but yeah, I'm not. I don't think I have the capacity to put her lower than Kenjiro. I think I would rather die. So she gets a pass from me. Congratulations to you, Azami. Please come back, please. Alright, Shion time, following in her mother's footsteps. Yay! Shion is a very interesting case because she is arguably the KagePro parent that we get the most content of, because she even has her own song about how much she loves her kid, and she's great. I love her very much. However, she's also incredibly traumatized, which is not very fun for her, and it ends up by extension not being very fun for Mary. Oops. Now, Shion's parenting style is kind of authoritarian leaning, and I use the term incredibly loosely here because there's really no other term I could fit her into. But essentially, a lot of the time, she just wants Mary to do what she says without necessarily having to explain everything, because she doesn't really explain that many things. She gives a very, like, basic explanation of things, like, oh, you can't go outside because people are afraid of us, because we're Medusa. Okay? And then that's just kind of where it ends. So it's not a very good explanation, especially not considering that Mary ends up going outside anyway. So, oops. But her behavior does make sense considering her trauma, because one of her earliest memories is her mother fucking killing a bunch of people and then leaving, which would fuck anybody up, never mind a Gorgon child. So it's just not that fun. Despite Azami's spiel, when she leaves Shion and Tsukihiko behind in the anime, where she tells Shion that she's not a monster and she should live her life as a human, Shion does not take these words to heart and instead proceeds to tell Mary the exact same stuff, that they are Medusa, and that people are afraid of us, and that we are monsters. And it's actually really interesting because Shion is applying the same sort of like gap between her and Mary that Azami applied to herself and Shion, because in Azami's mind, she's too much of a monster, but Shion can live as a human in a simulated society, and in Shion's mind, she's a lost cause because she's still waiting for her mother, and she's just like, oh, I'm being selfish because I can just wait for my mother by myself. Mary should just go outside and enjoy herself and live her life, because even though I can't do that anymore, she can. Like, she's full of potential, and surely she'll be able to assimilate into society one day, even if I couldn't. And it's just a very interesting repeating of the cycle. I feel bad. I feel really bad for her, though. What's interesting is, like I said, Shion doesn't really like explaining things to Mary that much, and she doesn't like getting into details about certain things. She just sort of tells Mary to not do things or not talk about things, and then leaves it at that. That could also be because of Mary's age. Mary seems to, at least based on my observations, develop slightly slower than Shion did, or at the very least, she doesn't seem... It could have also just be Kagerou timeline and shit being wonky, because it's unclear at exactly what age Azami left Tsukihiko and Shion, and it's also possible that I'm just a massive idiot and I don't know what children look like. But yeah, point is, Shion treats Mary very differently to how Azami treated her as a kid, and she does very much just simplify or skip over things that Mary may or may not understand. You can see in the anime, when Mary tries to go outside, Shion immediately attempts to distract her by reading to her, which is fair, but it never really removes Mary's want to go outside. And to me, it's kind of obvious that Shion always knew that this wasn't going to keep working forever. I think she was just sort of hoping that by the time she fucks up and Mary does go outside, she'll just be old enough that it'll be okay, maybe. But obviously it was not. So obviously, as I've already mentioned, Shion is very traumatized, and that's like reflected in her parenting, because again, unlike Azami, she's incredibly closed off towards Mary. She doesn't really tell her things. She doesn't talk about things. Mary doesn't really know a lot of the details surrounding Azami and Tsukihiko. Like, she knows some stuff, like, oh, Tsukihiko built this house, and oh, Tsukihiko was like granddad, like, yeah, shit like that. But it's obvious that Shion is very reluctant to talk about this sort of stuff, which is completely understandable. And also Shion does have a more normal mother-daughter relationship with Mary, in my opinion, than she did with Azami. So that's good. That's great, actually. Yeah, I'm a Shion supporter. I love her very much. One scene I find incredibly funny, though, with Shion is the ending of the anime, after Saru dies and before like the end scene, where she and Mary have that conversation. Like, I don't. I know she's just teasing her, but her being like, "Oh, don't cry, Mary. All of your friends will laugh at you," is just incredibly funny to me. Um, like obviously it's just meant to be, good natured teasing, and there's nothing like necessarily wrong with it. I just find it funny, and it also, to me, it also kind of just feels like her saying things like that is meant to kind of like push Mary into being like, yeah, don't worry, don't grieve over me, girl, like don't grieve over me, it's fine, I'm fine. You need to go back outside and play with your friends, because I am chilling. And I just find it interesting how she sort of inherited that same sort of self-sacrificing nature that Azami had, and she expresses it in like an almost similarly abrasive manner, but in a very, like, in a more teasing manner than Azami would have expressed it. I don't know. It's just kind of funny to me. I like that scene. I love, like I said, I love Shion. She is number 3 best parent. Now onto her actual stats though. For providing a safe and comfortable environment, I give her an 8, primarily because Mary really was happy with it. Like, goddamn, they're adorable. I'm only docking a few points because she was not able to provide a safe enough environment that Mary did not leave. But hey, what can you do? I can't exactly fault her for that, but at the same time, it doesn't give her a perfect 10. Now, as for imparting life skills, I'm sorry, Mary is a struggler when it comes to society. So I don't. I mean, you could argue that Shion was going to teach her the necessary life skills, if only they hadn't both died prematurely, which I would agree with, but as is, she did not get to teach said life skills, and therefore gets a 3. Oopsies. As for teaching morals, that's a 9. Because damn, she really did bring it back. Mary turned out okay, and that's saying something. So, congratulations, Shion. You get a wonderful 6.66 that I have graciously rounded up to a 7. Epic parenting, 7 out of 10. I love you. Alright, Tsukihiko time. Now, Tsukihiko doesn't have a lot of information on him, unfortunately, which makes this slightly hard to do. However, what information we do have makes him a very good parent, so he got himself very high on this list. Congratulations, Tsukihiko. He's very active when compared to Azami. I can't really box him into a specific parenting style because we just don't see enough of him, which is annoying, but you know what? I will roll with it. He's very protective of Shion, obviously, and Azami seems to be comfortable with letting him take care of the childcare, or like the child raising aspect of it, because obviously she doesn't know that much about human babies, but he's a bit more familiar with them, so he's able to do the things that she can't in theory. I think Shion's aforementioned waiting for Azami, despite knowing that Azami probably won't come back, is something that she actually probably got from Tsukihiko to a certain extent, because he spent literally the rest of his life waiting for her to come back, even though she never did, which is incredibly depressing. But hey, what can you do? So there's that. On that note, I think similarly to Kanjiro, I don't think the vibes were quite all there after Azami left. However, based on how Shion turned out, Tsukihiko at least tried to salvage what he could, I'm assuming. But all of that is just speculation, since there isn't actually a lot of canon content for us to go on here. He does seem to be doing his best, so I'll give him that, as I've given everybody else in this video. Now, as for his stats, Tsukiko obviously places quite high. For providing a safe and comfortable environment, I give him an 8, because, like I've already stated, it just wasn't the same without Azami. But also, he did his best. Like, Shion probably still felt quite safe, unless PTSD, which is highly probable, but that's not really something Tsukiko can do that much about. And then imparting life skills, a 6, because Shion did learn enough from him to be able to raise a child on her own later in life, presumably mostly alone, considering that we don't know what happened with Mari's dad beyond him maybe dying or maybe leaving. But either way, it's clearly Tsukiko did something, but it didn't do enough, because then Shion proceeded to not teach Mary all that much. But that's also probably because Mary just died so prematurely, like I've already stated. But either way, a 6. Sorry, Tsukiko. And then as for morals, a straight 10, because I'm not gonna lie, when your wife is a hot murderer, and she just kills human people without remorse, and you're still able to bring that shit back, and make your daughter a respectable human being, you gotta get a 10. You gotta get a 10 for morals. What can I say? Congratulations, Tsukiko. Ooh, you get a wonderful 8. I'm so happy for him. Look at him holding his daughter. Wonderful. Now we get to the honorable mentions section of the video. So there were some fans here that I could not include because they did not have names or designs. However, they were really cool and chill, and I'm sad that they are dead or not included enough in the narrative. So, Mr. and Mrs. Kisaragi, Mrs. Kisaragi actually does have a design. She's cool, and so is her husband. I wish you two were more prevalent in the story, but alas, no. So no analysis for you. However, I appreciate the contributions that they have made. Good for them. 10 out of 10 on the parenting scale. Wow. Who saw this coming? I didn't. I totally didn't see this coming, considering that she was the last named parent in KagePro who I hadn't talked about. This totally was not a predictable top choice. I find it funny how the Tateyama parents just round out this list. So yeah, Ayaka number 1, what can I say? She has everything. The parenting style is authoritative and democratic, which basically means that she reasons with the kids and she gives them explanations that are still understandable and are actually accurate, and she makes an active effort to understand their negative emotions, and she doesn't dismiss or downplay her kids' feelings. I love this one so much. Never mind that her leaving basically makes the entire Tateyama household fall apart. That's whatever. It's fine. Let's not even think about that. Okay, like when you really think about it, that's more indicative of Kinjiro being a fucking sopping wet mess rather than her being that put together. But still, she's great. She brings everyone together. In the novels, she's the main reason why the Mecha Trio begin trusting the Tateyamas, because her presence is just so inherently comforting. Like, she's the reason why the Mecha Trio even meet the Tateyamas in the first place, because research is what leads them. That's just great. I love her so much. She's so good. Like, holy shit, she's so good. I'm just saying, it is wild how competent she is compared to almost everyone else. Like, holy shit. Funnily enough, although she is implied to have like a relatively stressful backstory with her running away from her parents and everything, she seems to have gotten over literally anything that could have come with that, which is very impressive. Props to her for not letting her mental illness get in the way of parenting. Yippee! So yeah, she really doesn't have anything holding her back, which is why she ended up being the first on this list. I am so happy for her. Now, as for Ayaka's stats, well, for providing a safe and comfortable moment, 10. Because throughout like the novels and manga, the series as a whole, really, Ayaka's like emphasized to be the emotional support one in the Tateyama family, which obviously facilitates that sort of environment for them. So yeah, 10 out of 10 on that. I am very proud. As for imparting life skills, 7. Mostly because I'm assuming she must have taught something to the kids, considering that Kenjiro really didn't. And also they're all relatively competent. I mean, they're able to figure out moving out and getting a place for themselves and looking after themselves. So, you know, they're okay. The kids are alright. Thanks, Ayaka. And then for morals, 9. Because, yeah, I think Ayaka's presence definitely emphasized for the kids that they sort of need to like look after each other. If what she said to Yano is any indication. So yeah, all of that nets her a sweet 8.66, which I can round up to a 9, putting her as the number 1 parent in this ranking. Congratulations, Ayaka. I am very happy for you. You are a great mother. 10 out of 10. Incredible. So, for the final rankings, I have made a handy dandy fucking boundary, tier boundary thing. The percentages obviously correlate to the numbers, and this is what it ended up looking like. As you can see, everybody is very happy to be here. Now, like I said in my disclaimers, if you disagree with this tier list, you can make your own. I have made a template of this. It's in the description, linked. You can make your own funny little thing while you wait for the next panel or something. I don't know. So yeah, go crazy, I guess. To cap this off, I just want to say, if you disagree with me, good. I'm not exactly an expert like I've established. I just really like the KagePro parents, and I'm extremely normal about them. If you want to hear me yell about the KagePro parents some more, maybe you should follow me on social media. I don't know. I don't really post that often, to be honest. I mostly just sit in my corner and write fanfiction for guys who belong in a mental institute. So, yeah. Sorry if this was slightly incoherent. This was my first time doing something like this, and it was kind of stressful, but it was fun. So if you enjoyed watching this, I am very, very grateful, and I am very happy that you tuned in. So yeah, thanks for watching, I guess, or listening, or however you are consuming this action, or what have you. Audio, what was the thing I said at the beginning? Audio visual torture experience. Yeah. However you chose to experience this, I am very grateful nonetheless. So yeah, thank you for watching. Have a good DazeCon, and that's all from me. Bye.